Hi there. So I'm a little late with this post as well. I decided to do actually because I think posting weekly was a little ambitious just in terms of scheduling. So I'm going to put something together and upload it every other week, just so everyone's aware of that. I'd like to talk for a little bit, not too long, just briefly about essentially the issue of looking at harmonic intervals and chords within a context of melodic playing, modal playing. This sort of melodic or modal playing is often associated with the Middle Eastern and South Asian classical musics, as well as clearly Gregorian chant and further down the line, music from around the world. Not a tonal system, but something that's largely based on a drone and a melodic set. Yeah. Now, it's been talked about in quite a few places. This music isn't. All these music aren't necessarily strictly melodic. There's a strong presence of a strong harmonic element, and oftentimes as well. One example of this is an ornament that is used in certain Arabic styles. Essentially, it's the idea of harmonizing. In older styles, this main note would be paired with an auxiliary note, a fourth or a fifth away. So take, I'm putting this into the context of Indian raga. Take Hamsadwani. Those three pairs of notes are acting as a bit of support for the main note, right? Each auxiliary note. As you might hear, those notes actually aren't a fourth or a fifth away. Later styles of oud playing, and I assume other instruments, in more recent times, people have begun to use intervals other than just fourths and fifths, and rightly so, because in more updated harmony and theoretical, sort of thinking, we have intervals other than octaves, fourths and fifths, being thought of as consonant intervals. So the idea here is to reinforce these melody notes with consonants, with chords, if you want to call them sort of that popular term, chords. You can get full triads in if you'd like. There's that minor triad there. We might argue that this takes the music out of a vocal context. It's more difficult to sing these harmonies. Clearly, we can't sing more than one note at once, really. And that's exactly what this is, more than one note at once. So the basic idea here is that we can support these melody notes, the melodic notes, and this isn't historically inaccurate, right? You've seen there's a precedent for this. I've explained in Arabic improvisational styles that we tend to. We tend to sort of reinforce these notes with consonances. Now, this is the basic idea of this video that I'm showing this opportunity. It's not always at the forefront of people's sort of conceptions about these kinds of musics, because they're thought of as, here's your drone, here's your root note, your tonic, whatever you want to call it, and then from there you have a bit of melody as if it were sung, which is of course a wonderful tradition, very valuable source of creative resource. But how do we include these consonances in vocal music? Well, it broadens possibilities a bit. We sort of arpeggiate that triad quickly. We can't mimic this with the voice. It's really impossible. So, for one, we could think of this as giving us, again, more room to be creative in terms of moving from one note to another. From this high, from this, I should say, middle sa, to this low ni, melodically through the raga would be like that. Sorry, pa, middle pa to low ni there. Or so we've given this sort of quasi harmonic effect to some of the vocal stylings as well. I think that's worth consideration, and it's worth a bit of development of some of these techniques. Many of the melodic sets, these whether it be a raga or a maqam or however you're thinking about this, these related styles, they're conducive to triadic, basically embellishment. And so, put in a more Western tonal context, I think this is really important as well, because we can talk about we can talk about composition not as, okay, we have 3, 4, 5, 6, however many chords in this sort of harmonic progression, and how do we write a melody over that? Well, wait a minute, let's think about this. What if we began with the melody and thought of chords as embellishments to certain notes? I think this is a good lesson in music history, in that, well, yeah, for a long time it was the melodic themes. They were the vehicles for composition, and however those voices intertwined, that was a bit of an afterthought. These things changed with the popular strum guitar to a certain extent, but again, a bit of a good, a bit of a nice reminder for people who tend to think of composition in terms of, here are my chords, what can we do with them? Well, what if you thought, well, here's my melody, how can I, harmonize it, right? So that's a simple idea, but related here, and also important because we put some of this, we put a bit of this global, if we want to call it globalism, we put a bit of, multicultural awareness into some of these theoretical ideas that a melody can also be harmonic to a certain extent, and the two can really work together. Harmony and the melody, as opposed to one serving an accompaniment function and the melody being sort of disconnected. That's an important concept to realize. I don't know how much more there really is to say on this. There's a lot to be done, that's for sure. This can be tackled from various angles. On the guitar especially, we hear, and thanks to Matthew Grasso for this, we hear more of that resonance, that nice sort of chordal, those arpeggios, and that real life kind of instrument. Because as he's clarified, the guitar tends to lack some of the power that the traditional classical Indian classical instruments have. This sort of power to project and really present that single note. The guitar really benefits from some of this harmonic sort of support behind the note. So thanks, Matt, for that. Yeah, well, as I tend to do in these videos, I present, certain concepts for hopefully people to elaborate on and give me feedback on. So this is one more idea that I feel is worth sharing. Again, can be thought of from various angles. I played a little bit from sort of the east-west perspective, but beginning with chords, as would be sort of more of a Western, that would be more of a Western way of approaching this, and working into certain melodic forms, and then kind of reevaluating. This is important. I think we should reevaluate what the chords are for. It will really give us some possibilities as far as how do we use chords, how can we connect them to the melody, how can we bring out melody a little more, and always incorporate that wonderful vocal textual side of the tradition. So this is a brief presentation of a little idea, and hopefully it goes a long way with people. So thanks so much for listening and watching, and let me know how this is with you. Thanks so much.